Aanya was 24 years old, and she had a secret fear. She understood English perfectly, but the moment she tried to speak, her voice disappeared. Words lived in her mind, yet silence always reached her lips first. In conversations, she smiled more than she spoke. People thought she was shy, maybe even uninterested, but inside she was fighting a battle no one could see. Every pause felt like proof that she was not good enough. She had dreams bigger than her town. She wanted to work with international clients, travel, and express her ideas confidently. But every opportunity asked the same question in a different way. Can you speak fluently? At night, she would replay her failures. The meetings where she stayed quiet, the introductions that turned awkward, the moments that passed her by. Regret became heavier than fear. One evening, sitting alone on her bed, she whispered to herself, "How long will I wait?" The room gave no answer, but her heart did. It was time to stop escaping. The next morning, Aanya stood in front of a mirror. Her hands were cold, her mind nervous, but she forced her mouth to open. "My name is Aanya," she said, barely louder than a breath. It was not perfect, but it was real. So she said it again and again. Soon, the mirror stopped being glass. It became her first audience, her silent teacher, the place where she was allowed to fail and still continue. She made a rule for herself. No stopping in the middle, no matter how wrong it sounded. Fluency, she decided, was courage in motion. Every day she practiced small sentences. I can improve. I am learning. I will speak better. These were not just words, they were bricks rebuilding her confidence. A week later, she noticed something new. The fear still came, but it didn't stay as long. Her voice was beginning to push back, but progress is never a straight line. Some mornings, she spoke smoothly. On others, she froze again, angry at herself for going backward. Instead of quitting, she became curious. She watched her thoughts carefully and discovered the problem hiding underneath everything. She was translating. Before speaking, she would run to her own language, build the sentence there, and then try to convert it. By the time English arrived, her confidence had already left. So she changed her training. She started thinking in English during simple daily tasks. I am making tea. The water is hot. I feel tired but hopeful. The sentences were small, but they were direct. No middle step, no permission from fear. Slowly, English began living in her mind, not visiting it. One afternoon, while walking home, she realized she had been thinking in English for 10 minutes without effort. She stopped on the street and smiled like someone who had found treasure. Still, something was missing. Her voice worked, but it lacked music. She sounded correct, not natural. That's when she found shadowing. She listened to confident speakers online and repeated their sentences exactly, copying rhythm, emotion, and speed. At first she felt silly, but day after day, her mouth learned a new dance. English started to flow, not walk. Then came the real test. During a team discussion, her manager suddenly asked, "Aanya, what do you think?" The room turned toward her, and panic rose like fire. For a second, the old silence returned. But this time, she did something different. She breathed. "Well," she began, using the small bridge words she had practiced, "I believe we can try another approach." Her voice trembled, but it did not stop. No one laughed. No one interrupted. They listened. It was a short answer, maybe imperfect, but when she finished, something inside her changed forever. She had spoken while afraid. That evening, she didn't celebrate loudly. She simply looked at herself in the mirror and nodded. Respect had replaced doubt. Anya finally understood the truth most learners miss. Fluency is not about removing fear, it is about moving with it. From that day forward, she kept practicing. Not to become perfect, but to become free. And little by little, the girl who once hid behind smiles became someone whose voice carried across rooms. Not because it was loud, but because it was brave. Months passed, and practice quietly became part of Anya's identity. She no longer waited to feel ready because she had learned a secret: readiness comes after action, not before it. Her sentences were still simple, but now they carried weight. When she spoke, people noticed. Not because her English was perfect, but because her confidence was real. Opportunities began to change their behavior toward her. Managers asked her opinion more often, colleagues listened carefully, and new responsibilities started finding their way to her desk. One day, an email arrived that made her heart race. An international client meeting. She would have to present. The old Anya would have prayed for cancellation. The new Anya opened her notebook and wrote only 3 words: "I am prepared." That night she practiced, not to impress, but to express. She focused on clarity, pauses, breathing, the tools she had built from nothing. The meeting room felt colder than usual. Faces from different countries appeared on the screen, waiting. Fear entered again. But this time, it did not control the chair she sat in. "Good morning, everyone," she began, steady and calm. She explained her ideas, answered questions, and even smiled while speaking. Some sentences were great. Some stumbled. But she never abandoned herself. When it ended, her manager said something simple. "Well done, Anya." 2 words. Years of doubt collapsed under them. Later, standing alone near the window, she remembered the girl who once couldn't say her own introduction. She wished she could travel back in time, hold her hands, and whisper, "Keep going. You are closer than you think." But maybe she didn't need a time machine. Because somewhere, someone else was exactly where she used to be, silent, scared, and full of dreams. And now, through her journey, Anya had become proof. Proof that small daily courage can rewrite a life. She walked past the mirror that evening. For the first time, she didn't practice. She simply smiled at the woman looking back. Her voice was no longer hiding. It had found its home.